The security gate buzzed open before Evelyn Blackwood could press the intercom button. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she stared up at the imposing Montgomery estate. 3 stories of architectural perfection nestled among manicured gardens that stretched for acres. The listing had simply stated, live-in childcare provider needed. Not, must be comfortable with surveillance cameras tracking your every move. They're expecting you, miss, the security guard said, handing back her ID. His eyes lingered on her face a moment too long. Evelyn clutched her worn leather portfolio tighter as she walked the cobblestone path to the main entrance. Her bank account held exactly $237.43, barely enough for next month's student loan payment. This job was her last hope before facing eviction. The massive front door swung open before she could knock. A tall, silver-haired man in an impeccable suit regarded her with narrowed eyes. "Miss Blackwood, I presume." "Whitaker, the house manager. Mr. Montgomery is waiting in his study." His British accent was clipped, professional. "Follow me, please." The grand foyer opened into a sprawling mansion that exuded wealth without warmth. Original artwork adorned walls tall enough to make her dizzy. No photographs, no personal touches, just calculated perfection. Whitaker led her through a maze of hallways. "Mr. Montgomery values punctuality above all else," he said. "You're 3 minutes early. He'll appreciate that." They stopped before an ornate wooden door. Whitaker knocked twice, waited for a muffled acknowledgement, then opened it. "Miss Blackwood, sir." Evelyn stepped into a study straight from a classic film, leather-bound books, a massive mahogany desk, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. Behind the desk sat Thatcher Montgomery, America's most eligible widower and CEO of Montgomery Pharmaceuticals. The tabloids didn't do him justice. Thatcher Montgomery was devastatingly handsome in a severe way. Sharp cheekbones, penetrating gray eyes, and dark hair swept back from a strong forehead. His custom suit cost more than her entire education. He didn't stand. "Your resume is inadequate for this position," he said without preamble. His voice was deep, resonant. 4 years of university, a psychology degree, volunteer work at a children's hospital. Nothing that sets you apart from the 37 other applicants. Evelyn swallowed her shock. "Then why am I here, Mr. Montgomery?" A muscle twitched in his jaw. "Sit down, Miss Blackwood." She complied, placing her portfolio on her lap. Up close, she noticed the shadows under his eyes, the tightness around his mouth. The man carried grief like an invisible weight. "My daughter requires special attention," he said. "Alara is 6 years old and hasn't spoken more than 10 words since her mother died 18 months ago. The therapists call it selective mutism. I call it failure, mine." The raw admission caught Evelyn off guard. "Children process grief differently than adults, Mr. Montgomery. It doesn't reflect on your parenting." His eyes flashed. "I didn't ask for your professional assessment." "Then why did you call me here?" Evelyn surprised herself with her boldness. A tense silence filled the room. Finally, he leaned back in his chair. "Because you're the only applicant with experience in childhood trauma recovery. And because I'm desperate." Before she could respond, the door burst open. A small whirlwind with dark curls and Montgomery's gray eyes darted into the room, followed by a frazzled woman in her 50s. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Montgomery." She slipped away while I was preparing her lunch. The woman apologized. The child, Alara, froze when she saw Evelyn. Something flickered across her small face. Recognition? Curiosity? Evelyn couldn't tell. The girl approached slowly, studying Evelyn with unnerving intensity. "Hello, Alara," Evelyn said softly. "My name is Evelyn." Alara reached out tentatively, touching Evelyn's long copper hair with wonder. Then she did something that made the room go still. She smiled. "Pretty," she whispered. Just one word, but it sent shock waves through the room. Thatcher Montgomery stood so abruptly his chair rolled backward. "Mrs. Hodges, take Alara back to the nursery." After they left, he studied Evelyn with new intensity. She hasn't spoken to anyone new since Serafina died. Children often sense when someone is genuinely interested in them, not just their behavior, Evelyn said quietly. Montgomery picked up a file from his desk. "Your background check is clean." Almost suspiciously so. 24 years old, raised in foster care, worked your way through college. No family entanglements, no romantic relationship. He looked up. "Why?" The question felt invasive. "I focus on my goals, Mr. Montgomery." Not everyone has the luxury of distractions. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. The position pays $90,000 annually, including room and board. You'll have your own suite in the East Wing, complete privacy when off-duty, and use of a car. Weekends often less specified otherwise. If Alara continues to respond to you, there will be bonuses. Avalon kept her face neutral despite the life-changing sum. May I ask what happened to your previous nanny? She couldn't connect with Alara. He slid a contract across the desk. Start tomorrow. Whitaker will show you out. As Avalon rose to leave, she noticed a framed photograph partly concealed behind a stack of papers, the only personal item in the sterile room. She caught a glimpse of a beautiful woman with a familiar smile. At the door, Thatcher called out, "Miss Blackwood?" She turned. "Do you believe in fate?" The odd question hung between them. "I believe in making the most of opportunities, Mr. Montgomery." His expression darkened. "Then we have that in common, at least." As Whitaker escorted her through the mansion, Avalon felt eyes on her back. At the main entrance, she turned and caught Thatcher watching her from the second-floor landing. When their eyes met, he stepped back into the shadows. On her way out, she passed a large portrait she hadn't noticed before, the Montgomery family. Thatcher stood proud beside a stunning woman with Alara in her arms. Serafina Montgomery had been breathtaking. Avalon paused, struck by an odd sensation. The security guard cleared his throat. "Uncanny, isn't it?" he murmured. "What is?" He seemed to regret speaking. "Nothing, miss. Have a good day." As the gates closed behind her, Avalon couldn't shake the feeling that she had walked into something far more complicated than a nanny position. On the passenger seat of her beaten Honda Civic lay the contract with its life-changing salary. What she didn't see was Thatcher Montgomery in his study, comparing her driver's license photo with an old family portrait hidden in his desk drawer. His hands trembled as he reached for the phone. "It's her," he whispered to the person on the other end. "I found her." Avalon arrived at the Montgomery estate the next morning with everything she owned packed into 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. The morning light softened the mansion's imposing silhouette, but did nothing to calm her nerves. Something about this place, this opportunity, felt too perfect, too convenient. Whitaker greeted her at the entrance with the same impassive expression. "Mr. Montgomery has been called to the city for an emergency board meeting. He left instructions for your orientation." The house manager led her through the East Wing to a suite that was larger than her entire apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, flanked by antique nightstands and facing floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the estate's private lake. These were Mrs. Montgomery's chambers before she moved to the master suite, Whitaker explained, watching her reaction carefully. Mr. Montgomery thought it appropriate. Avalon ran her fingers along the ornate vanity. "It's beautiful, but I'd be comfortable with something simpler. Mr. Montgomery insists." Whitaker's tone suggested the matter was settled. "Alara will be finishing breakfast shortly. You'll find a staff handbook on the desk with schedules and protocols. Any questions?" "A million," but she settled on one. "What happened to Mrs. Montgomery?" Whitaker's expression tightened. "A boating accident on the lake. 18 months ago. The household does not discuss it, especially around Alara." After he left, Avalon unpacked her meager belongings, feeling like an imposter in the opulent surroundings. The room retained a feminine elegance that made her uneasy, as if she were stepping into a dead woman's shoes. In the bathroom, she found high-end toiletries arranged on marble countertops. The massive closet was empty except for a note. "Professional attire will be delivered this afternoon." Tim, the presumption irritated her. She hadn't agreed to a makeover. The staff handbook was less a guide and more a legal document outlining confidentiality agreements and security protocols. Several pages detailed restricted areas of the estate, including Thatcher's private offices, the West Wing's master suite, and bizarrely, the boathouse. A soft knock interrupted her reading. "Miss Blackwood." A middle-aged woman with kind eyes peered in. "I'm Mrs. Hodges, the housekeeper. Alara is asking for you." Avalon followed her through the mansion's labyrinthine corridors to a cheerful nursery painted in pastel colors. Alara sat at a tiny table, pushing cereal around a bowl with disinterest. When she spotted Avalon, her small face lit up. "You came." The words tumbled out with surprising clarity for a child who supposedly rarely spoke. "I promised I would." Avalon knelt beside her. "I'm going to be staying here to help take care of you." The girl's expression turned solemn. Because Mommy's gone? Mrs. Hodges gasped softly. Evalyn maintained her composure. Yes, partly, but also because I think we'll have fun together. Alara studied her with those penetrating gray eyes, so like her father's, yet softer. You look like her. A chill ran down Evalyn's spine. Like who, sweetheart? But Alara had retreated back into silence, returning to her cereal. Mrs. Hodges pulled Evalyn aside. That's the most she's spoken at once since the accident. Mr. Montgomery will want to know. Throughout the morning, Evalyn familiarized herself with Alara's routine, medical information, and educational needs. The girl had private tutors for everything from mathematics to piano, leaving little time for normal childhood play. When Evalyn suggested they spend the afternoon exploring the gardens, Alara's face lit up again. As they walked the grounds hand in hand, Evalyn noticed security personnel at discrete intervals along the property's perimeter. More disconcerting were the cameras mounted at strategic points, watching, recording. Daddy says they keep us safe, Alara offered, following Evalyn's gaze to a camera disguised as a garden ornament. From what? Evalyn asked gently. The girl shrugged. Bad people. Near the edge of the lake, Alara suddenly stopped, her small hand tightening around Evalyn's. We can't go there, she whispered, pointing to the boathouse in the distance. Why not? It's where Mommy left. Tears welled in her eyes. Daddy says the water took her, but Marina says that's not true. Evalyn frowned. Who's Marina? Alara's eyes widened, as if realizing she'd said too much. She pressed a finger to her lips. Secret. Later that evening, after tucking Alara into bed with a promise to check on her before her own bedtime, Evalyn explored the mansion's main floor. The grand library caught her attention, 2 stories of books with a spiral staircase leading to the upper level. She climbed the stairs, running her fingers along spines of first editions and leather-bound classics. On the upper level, she found a reading nook with a view of the lake, now silvery under the rising moon. A book lay open on the window seat, a collection of Greek myths. My wife's favorite. Evalyn started at the deep voice behind her. Thatcher Montgomery stood at the top of the spiral staircase, still in his business suit despite the late hour. The moonlight cast half his face in shadow. I didn't mean to intrude, she said, closing the book carefully. This is the only room in the house where she was truly happy. He stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Serafina hated this place. Too isolated, too cold, she said. Then why stay? Because I asked her to. The simple statement carried the weight of profound regret. Whitaker tells me Alara spoke to you. Complete sentences. Evalyn nodded. She's an intelligent girl. Observant. What did she say? Evalyn hesitated. She mentioned that I look like someone. Something flickered across Thatcher's face. Alarm, confirmation, she couldn't tell. Children say odd things. Her therapist warned us about replacement fantasies. It seemed more specific than that. Their eyes locked in silent challenge. Finally, he asked, do you believe in coincidences, Miss Blackwood? Less and less each day. His mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. I had your things moved to a different room. The East Suite isn't appropriate after all. Why not? Instead of answering, he retrieved something from his pocket, a small silver key. This belongs to you. It opens a safe in your new quarters. I suggest keeping valuable items there. As she took it, their fingers brushed. Thatcher withdrew his hand quickly, as if burned. I have one more question, Evalyn said. Who is Marina? The transformation was immediate. His face hardened, eyes turning cold. Where did you hear that name? Alara mentioned her today. It's her imaginary friend. His response came too quickly. The therapist says it's normal, part of her grief process. Before she could press further, the library door swung open. A stunning woman in an evening gown appeared, her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo. There you are, Thatcher. The car's waiting. She assessed Evalyn with calculating eyes. You must be the new nanny. I'm Imogen Clearwater, VP of Montgomery Pharmaceuticals. The possessive hand she placed on Thatcher's arm spoke volumes. He removed it discreetly. Imogen is an old family friend, he explained. How fascinating that you found someone with such a remarkable resemblance, Imogen said, her smile not reaching her eyes. It's almost like looking at a ghost. That's enough. Thatcher's voice was sharp. Miss Blackwood, Whitaker will show you to your new quarters. I'll be in the city overnight. We'll discuss Alara's progress tomorrow. As they left, Imogen's voice drifted back. Really, Thatcher, it's cruel to everyone involved. She doesn't even know, does she? Evelyn slept fitfully in her new room, smaller but still luxurious, located closer to Alara's nursery. The safe was hidden behind a landscape painting. Inside, she stored her most precious possession, a silver locket with strange engravings, the only link to her unknown past. At 3 a.m., a scream pierced the silence. Evelyn bolted to Alara's room, finding the girl thrashing in the grip of a nightmare. She gathered the child in her arms, whispering soothing words until the small body relaxed. She came again, Alara whispered against Evelyn's shoulder. Who did, sweetheart? The lady from the water. She says I have to find the key. Alara's eyes fluttered closed. She says you're the one. As Evelyn tucked her back in, she noticed a framed photograph on Alara's nightstand. Serafina Montgomery holding a newborn Alara. The resemblance was unsettling. Same copper hair, same delicate features. Evelyn returned to her room, unnerved. She removed her locket and studied the strange symbols engraved on its surface, symbols she'd never been able to decipher. Outside her window, a light flashed briefly at the boathouse. When she looked again, it was gone. In his Manhattan penthouse, Thatcher Montgomery sat in darkness, staring at an identical locket in his palm. On his desk lay an old newspaper clipping with a headline partly visible. Tragic fire claims lives of prominent. The rest was burned away. His phone rang. Is she settling in? A female voice asked. Yes, but she's asking questions already. About Marina. The voice turned cold. Then we're running out of time. If she discovers the truth before we find the third medallion, Everett will silence her just like he tried with Vivian. Thatcher closed his eyes. I won't let that happen. I made a promise. To whom, Thatcher? Your wife? Or yourself? He didn't answer, staring instead at the photograph beside him. A family portrait with two identical women flanking a distinguished older man. One of the women had been burned out of the image, leaving only half her face visible. They say history repeats itself, the voice continued. Let's hope this time it has a happier ending. Dark clouds gathered over the Montgomery estate as Evelyn helped Alara with her math workbook. 3 weeks had passed since she'd started working for Thatcher Montgomery, and while Alara spoke more each day, their employer remained an enigma. He appeared for brief moments, watching them from doorways, asking clipped questions about Alara's progress, vanishing for days on business trips. Storm's coming, Whitaker announced, entering the sunroom. Mr. Montgomery has canceled Alara's writing lesson. He suggests indoor activities for the remainder of the day. Alara's shoulders slumped. But Jupiter misses me when I don't visit him. Evelyn squeezed her hand. We'll see your pony tomorrow. How about we bake cookies instead? The girl brightened instantly. Can we make the ones with chocolate chips? Like before. Evelyn frowned. We've never made cookies together, sweetheart. A strange expression crossed Alara's face. Oh, it must have been with someone else. Whitaker cleared his throat. Mrs. Montgomery was fond of baking with Alara. Later, as thunder rumbled outside the kitchen windows, Evelyn helped Alara measure flour. Mrs. Hodges watched with undisguised amazement as the girl chattered about her pony and her favorite books. It's a miracle, the housekeeper whispered when Alara focused on mixing the dough. We haven't heard her talk this much since before the accident. She's healing, Evelyn replied. Children are resilient when given permission to move forward. Mrs. Hodges looked troubled. Mr. Montgomery will be pleased, but, nothing. The housekeeper busied herself wiping already clean counters. Just that grief affects everyone differently. The master hasn't begun to heal yet. As if summoned by her words, Thatcher appeared in the doorway, rain-soaked and scowling. Alara squealed with delight, running to him with flour-covered hands. Daddy, we're making cookies like Mommy used to. Something flashed across his face. Pain, uncertainty, guilt. He patted her head awkwardly. That's nice, sweetheart. Don't make a mess for Mrs. Hodges. His eyes met Evelyn's over Alara's head. Miss Blackwood, I need to speak with you. My study, 15 minutes. The rain intensified as Evelyn approached Thatcher's study, lightning illuminating the hallway in harsh bursts. She knocked twice. Enter. He stood before the fireplace, silhouetted against the flames. A drink dangled from his fingers. Close the door. She complied, suddenly conscious of her flour-smudged clothes. Is something wrong with Alara's progress? On the contrary, Dr. Abernathy is astounded by her improvement. He took a slow sip. That's not why I called you here. A crack of thunder rattled the windows. The lights flickered, then died, plunging the room into firelit shadows. Thatcher sighed. Perfect timing. The generators should engage shortly. They waited in awkward silence. When the power remained off, he set down his glass. Whitaker will handle it. Meanwhile, I received something disturbing today. He retrieved a large envelope from his desk. This was delivered to my office. No return address, no fingerprints according to security. He removed a photograph and slid it across the desk. Recognize anyone? Avalon's breath caught. The photo showed a charred building, emergency vehicles surrounding it. In the foreground, a younger version of herself, perhaps 16, sat wrapped in a shock blanket. The Westfield fire, she whispered. My foster parents died in that fire. Yes, I know. His voice was carefully neutral. What I don't know is why someone would send this to me now. She looked up sharply. You think this is about me? Why would anyone care about a 7-year-old fire? You tell me. I have no idea. It was ruled an electrical fault. I was at the library when it happened. The memory still haunted her, returning to sirens, flames, her few possessions reduced to ash. Why do you have this? His expression was unreadable. Someone wants me to know about your past. The question is why. Another lightning strike hit close by. Thunder crashed immediately after, shaking the foundation of the house. Thatcher moved to the windows, drawing the curtains closed. You should know that I've had you investigated thoroughly, he said without turning. Your movements tracked back to the first foster home at age 3. Before that, nothing. Anger flared in her chest. You had no right. I had every right. He faced her now, eyes hard. My daughter is in your care. Did you think I'd allow a stranger into our lives without precautions? There's a difference between a background check and invasive surveillance. She stood, preparing to leave. I don't appreciate being treated like a suspect. Everyone is a suspect until proven otherwise. He caught her arm as she turned to go. My wife drowned in suspicious circumstances. 18 months later, a woman with an inexplicable past appears, bearing an uncanny resemblance to her. What would you think? The accusation stunned her. You think I had something to do with your wife's death? I never even met her. Are you certain of that? His grip tightened. What do you remember from before the foster system, Avalon? Nothing. I was 3 years old. His eyes searched hers. No flashes, no dreams, no inexplicable knowledge. She thought of the locket, the symbols she sometimes traced in her sleep. Why are you asking me this? A tremendous crash interrupted them, the distinct sound of breaking glass from nearby. Thatcher released her arm. Stay here. I should check on Alara. She's with Mrs. Hodges in the kitchen, the safest room in the house. He withdrew a gun from his desk drawer. Stay? Here. He disappeared into the darkened hallway. Minutes stretched painfully. Another crash, closer this time, followed by angry voices. Avalon searched for a weapon, settling on a heavy brass paperweight. The study door burst open. Avalon raised the paperweight, then lowered it when she recognized Thatcher. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead. Someone broke in through the conservatory, he said, locking the door behind him. Security is sweeping the grounds, but the storm is interfering with communications. Alara is safe. I checked. He pressed a hand to his bleeding temple. The intruder was after something specific. My office was ransacked. Avalon set down the paperweight. You're hurt. It's nothing. But he swayed slightly, blinking to clear his vision. Sit down before you fall down. She guided him to the sofa, then found a first aid kit in the bathroom adjoining his study. Hold still. He flinched as she cleaned the cut. Is this how you treated the children at the hospital? No, I was gentler with them. She pressed an antiseptic wipe against the wound with deliberate firmness. They didn't accuse me of murder. The shadow of a smile crossed his face. I didn't accuse you of murder. You implied it. I implied connection. There's a difference. His eyes held hers. The fire that killed your foster parents wasn't an accident, Avalon. It was arson. She froze. That's not possible. The investigation was buried, like so many things connected to the Montgomery name. He winced as she resumed cleaning the cut. The same investigators ruled Serafina's drowning accidental despite evidence to the contrary. What evidence? Thunder crashed again. The generator finally kicked in, lights flickering back to life. In the sudden brightness, Thatcher looked exhausted, vulnerability replacing his usual mask of control. She was an excellent swimmer. Olympic level. The lake was calm that day. His voice grew distant. And she texted me minutes before she died. One word. Found. Then nothing. Found what? I don't know. He closed his eyes briefly. But someone went to great lengths to ensure I never found out. The boat was sabotaged. Avalon finished bandaging his cut, mind racing. And you think the person who broke in tonight is connected? I know they are. He caught her wrist as she withdrew. Your locket. Where did you get it? Her hand went instinctively to her throat, where the silver pendant lay hidden beneath her blouse. How do you know about that? Answer the question. It's the only thing I had with me when I entered foster care. They said it was around my neck when I was found. She pulled away from his grip. Why? Instead of answering, he reached into his pocket and withdrew a silver chain. Dangling from it was a locket identical to hers, with the same strange engravings. Because Serafina had one just like it, he said quietly. And so did her twin sister, Vivian. The sister everyone believes died 25 years ago in a boating accident on this very lake. The room seemed to tilt. I don't understand. Neither did I, until 6 months before Serafina died. She found an old photograph in her father's study. 3 infants, triplets, not twins as we'd been told, each wearing a silver locket with different engravings. His eyes never left hers. She became obsessed with finding the truth. And then she died. You think I'm connected to these triplets? That's impossible. I was born in Chicago. My birth records were falsified. I had them analyzed. He stood, pacing despite his injury. 2 days before Serafina died, she told me she'd found something that would change everything. She was going to meet someone at the boathouse. She never told me who. Lightning flashed again, closer this time. The lights flickered ominously. Why are you telling me this now? Avalon asked. Because whoever broke in was looking for the lockets. They tore apart my safe, my desk. The only valuable they took was an old photograph of the Blackwood triplets. Blackwood. The name hit her like a physical blow. But that's my name. Is it? His expression was grim. Or is it the name on forged documents created for a 3-year-old girl who needed to disappear? The door burst open again. Whitaker stood there, his usual composure shattered. Sir, another break-in. The East Wing. Alara. Thatcher was already moving. Safe with Mrs. Hodges. But Miss Blackwood's room. They rushed through the mansion to Avalon's quarters. The door hung from broken hinges. Inside, devastation, drawers emptied, mattress slashed, her few possessions scattered. The safe behind the painting stood open and empty. No, she whispered, falling to her knees beside her ruined suitcase. She dug frantically through the clothing until she found a false bottom, still intact. Inside was a small, singed photograph of a smiling couple holding a baby. It's still here. Thatcher knelt beside her. Your foster parents? She nodded, tears threatening. The only family I remember. Something softened in his face. He touched her shoulder, the first gentle contact between them. I'm sorry, Avalon, for your losses, and for dragging you into this. You didn't drag me. You sought me out. She wiped her eyes. Why? What do you think I am to you? Before he could answer, a child's scream echoed through the mansion. They both froze. Alara. They whispered in unison, then ran together into the storm-ravaged night. Alara's scream led them not to danger, but to discovery. They found her in Serafina's old dressing room, staring at an open jewelry box that had fallen from a high shelf during the commotion. Look what I found, Daddy. The girl held up a silver chain identical to the ones Thatcher and Avalon possessed. It's like yours and Miss Avalon's. Thatcher exchanged a glance with Avalon before carefully taking the locket from his daughter's hands. Where did you find this, sweetheart? It fell when the big noise happened. The drawer opened. Alara pointed to an ornate jewelry box with a false bottom exposed. Is it Mommy's? Yes. Thatcher's voice was strained. Let's get you back to Mrs. Hodges. It's not safe here. After returning Alara to the kitchen, Thatcher led Avalon to his study, locking the door behind them. Security personnel moved through the mansion, searching for signs of the intruders who had disappeared as quickly as they had come. 3 lockets. Avalon touched the one around her neck. 1 for each triplet. Thatcher laid them side by side on his desk. Each silver oval bore different engraved symbols, hers with wave-like patterns, his with what appeared to be flames, and Serafina's with symbols resembling trees or branches. Earth, fire, water. Thatcher traced the patterns. Serafina believed they were a key of sorts. Her father, Gregory Blackwood, was obsessed with puzzles and encryption. These were given to the triplets at birth. But why separate them? Why the secrecy? Power. Money. The usual suspects. Thatcher opened a folder and showed her a newspaper clipping. Gregory Blackwood founded Blackwood Biotech 40 years ago. Revolutionary cancer treatments, worth billions. When he died unexpectedly, his partner, my uncle Everett Montgomery, took control through a complex legal maneuver. The company became Montgomery Pharmaceuticals. You think your uncle was involved in separating the triplets? I know he was. Thatcher's eyes darkened. 6 months before she died, Serafina found evidence suggesting the boating accident that supposedly killed Vivian was staged. She believed her sister was alive, hidden away. She became obsessed with finding her. And the third triplet? Unknown. Serafina suspected the triplets weren't identical, but fraternal. 2 identical girls and a brother. The boy disappeared from records entirely. Lightning flashed again as the storm intensified. In the momentary brightness, Evelyn caught sight of a portrait on the wall she hadn't noticed before, a stern-faced man with familiar gray eyes. Your uncle? Thatcher nodded. Everett Montgomery. Chairman of the board, guardian of the Montgomery legacy, murderer. You can't possibly know that. The night before she died, Serafina called me, terrified. She said she'd found proof that Everett had killed her father and stolen the company through forged documents. The third locket was the key to proving it. His voice tightened. I was in Tokyo. By the time I got back, she was gone. And you think I'm connected to all this? I know you are. He stepped closer. When I saw your application, your photo, it was like seeing Serafina's ghost. I had you investigated immediately. The trail led back to that fire, your foster parents dying too conveniently after asking questions about your origins. This is insane. Evelyn backed away. You hired me because you think I'm some long-lost triplet? Part of some corporate conspiracy. I hired you because my daughter recognized you instantly. Because you wear that locket. Because everything about you screams Blackwood. His intensity was frightening. Because Serafina believed finding her siblings was the key to justice and to keeping Alara safe. From what? From Everett. If what Serafina discovered is true, the Blackwood heirs are the rightful owners of patents worth billions. Patents Everett would kill to keep. The study door burst open. Whitaker stood there, his usually impassive face alarmed. Sir, Mr. Everett Montgomery is here. Thatcher cursed under his breath. Stall him. Impossible, sir. He's right here. A commanding voice finished the sentence. An elegant man in his 60s stepped into the room, flanked by 2 security guards who were definitely not Thatcher's men. Nephew, what a dreadful night for a family reunion. Thatcher subtly moved in front of Evelyn. Uncle, what brings you out in such weather? Concern. Everett's smile didn't reach his eyes. Security alerted me to a break-in. I came personally to ensure my grandniece's safety. His gaze shifted to Evelyn, widening in apparent shock. And who might this be? Evelyn Blackwood. Alara's nanny. Blackwood. Everett examined her with unsettling intensity. Fascinating surname. Any relation to the Massachusetts Blackwoods? Foster child. Evelyn kept her voice steady. The name was assigned. How convenient. Everett stepped closer. You bear a remarkable resemblance to my late niece-in-law. Thatcher intervened. It's late, uncle. Evelyn should check on Alara. Of course. Everett's smile remained fixed. Family comes first, after all. Blood is everything. As Evelyn slipped past him, he caught her wrist with surprising strength. His fingers pressed against her pulse. That's a lovely necklace, my dear. May I see it? It's not for show. She pulled free. If you'll excuse me. In Alara's room, she found the girl awake, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Is the bad man gone? She whispered. Evelyn froze. What bad man, sweetheart? The one who made mommy go away. Alara's eyes filled with tears. He's here tonight. I heard his voice. Your great uncle? Did he hurt your mommy? Alara's nod was barely perceptible. Marina saw him. At the boathouse. Before mommy went into the water. The girl curled into a tight ball. Don't let him take you away too. Evelyn's blood ran cold. Alara, who is Marina? Is she real? She lives in the boathouse. Alara's voice dropped to the faintest whisper. She knows about the lockets. She says they opened the door to the truth. Avalon couldn't sleep after Alara's disturbing confession. The storm had passed, leaving an uneasy calm over the Montgomery estate. Everett had departed after a tense conversation with Thatcher behind closed doors, but not before giving Avalon one last penetrating look that made her skin crawl. At sunrise, she slipped out of the mansion toward the boathouse. Security patrols changed shifts, creating a brief window where the path was unwatched. The small wooden structure sat on stilts at the lake's edge, weather-beaten and padlocked. Looking for ghosts, Miss Blackwood? She whirled to find Whitaker standing several feet away, his expression unreadable in the early light. Just getting some air, she lied. The boathouse has been sealed since Mrs. Montgomery's accident. He approached slowly. Mr. Montgomery would be displeased to find you here. Because of what happened to his wife? Or because of who might be inside? Whitaker's composure slipped momentarily. I don't know what you mean. Marina, the woman who witnessed Serafina's murder. Avalon stepped closer. The woman hiding in this boathouse. A flicker of panic crossed the butler's face. There's no one there. Then you won't mind if I look. I can't allow that. Whitaker moved between her and the boathouse. Please return to the house, Miss Blackwood. Is Thatcher protecting her? Or hiding her? Neither. Whitaker's voice dropped. He's keeping her alive. If Everett knew. He glanced nervously toward the mansion. Please. For everyone's safety. Before she could respond, her phone vibrated with a text from Thatcher. Montgomery Foundation Gala tonight. You're attending. Formal attire in your closet. The annual Montgomery Foundation Gala transformed the mansion's ballroom into a glittering showcase of wealth and influence. Avalon stood at the periphery, uncomfortable in the designer gown Thatcher had provided, a midnight blue creation that complemented her copper hair and porcelain skin. Thatcher found her observing the crowd from behind a marble column. You clean up well, Miss Blackwood. Why am I here? She turned to face him. I'm the nanny, not your date. You're here because Everett will be watching. Because I need him to see you. Thatcher's eyes never left the entrance. He suspects who you are. Tonight we confirm it. By parading me around like bait. By introducing Avalon Blackwood to society. He offered his arm. Shall we? The whispers began the moment they entered the ballroom proper. Women in designer gowns exchanged glances. Men in tuxedos stared openly. Thatcher guided her through the crowd with a possessive hand at the small of her back. They think I'm your mistress, she muttered through a frozen smile. Let them talk. Rumors provide excellent cover. His lips barely moved. Everett just arrived. Second entrance, with Imogen. Avalon spotted them immediately. Everett resplendent in a tailored tuxedo, Imogen draped in crimson silk that emphasized her statuesque beauty. The blonde woman's eyes narrowed when she spotted Avalon on Thatcher's arm. She's jealous, Avalon observed. She's ambitious. There's a difference. Thatcher steered her toward a less crowded area. Imogen wants the Montgomery legacy. She thought marrying me was the path. When I chose Serafina instead, she aligned with your uncle. Precisely. The orchestra began a waltz. Thatcher extended his hand. Dance with me. On the dance floor, his hand splayed against her back. He guided her with surprising grace. Everett's watching. He'll approach soon. And then what? He murders me in front of 200 witnesses. He assesses you. Tests you. Thatcher's eyes met hers with unexpected intensity. Whatever he says, whatever he asks, remember one thing. He will use anything against you. I'm not afraid of him. You should be. As the waltz ended, an elderly woman approached them, leaning heavily on a cane. Her rheumy eyes widened when she saw Avalon up close. Vivian's child, she gasped, clutching Avalon's hand. You have her eyes. Blackwood eyes. Thatcher tensed beside her. Mrs. Harrington, you remember my niece, Avalon. Niece? The old woman scoffed. Vivian wasn't your sister, Thatcher. She was Serafina's twin. This girl is. Confused by your mistake. Everett appeared beside them, his smile cold. Mrs. Harrington suffers from dementia, I'm afraid. Imagines conspiracies everywhere. The old woman drew herself up with dignity. I was there the night the triplets were born, Everett. Before you arranged that convenient accident for Vivian. Perhaps you should rest, Mrs. Harrington. Everett signaled to a waiter. Escort our honored guest to the sitting room. After she was led away, Everett turned to Avalon. Family resemblances can be so striking, can't they? One might almost believe in reincarnation. Or survival, she replied evenly. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Indeed, the Montgomerys are survivors above all else. He touched her locket lightly. That's a remarkable piece. Family heirloom. Of a sort. I'd be interested in acquiring it. Name your price. It's not for sale. Everett's smile thinned. Everything has a price, Miss Blackwood. Even lives. He moved away, leaving Evelyn shaken. Thatcher appeared at her side, taking her elbow. We need to leave. Now. In his study, Thatcher poured 2 fingers of scotch and handed her the glass. Drink. You're pale. She took a sip, welcoming the burn. Who was that woman? Mrs. Harrington. Seraphina's godmother. Former board member of Blackwood Biotech. He paced the room. One of the few people alive who knows the truth about the triplets. She called me Vivian's child. Yes. Thatcher stopped pacing. It's time you knew everything. Seraphina wasn't searching for her sister Vivian. She was searching for Vivian's child, a daughter given up for adoption after Vivian's apparent death. A child who would be about your age now. Evelyn sank into a chair. You think I'm that child? That's why you sought me out. Because I might be Seraphina's niece? I know you are. He knelt before her. Seraphina found adoption records before she died. She traced them to the Westfield fire. To you. The locket confirms it. This is insane. I can't be. You are a Blackwood. Heiress to billions. And in grave danger because of it. His hands closed over hers. Everett will stop at nothing to prevent you from claiming your birthright. What birthright? The 3rd locket is the key to a safe deposit box containing Gregory Blackwood's true will and evidence of Everett's crimes. Together, the 3 lockets form a code that opens it. His eyes burned with intensity. Seraphina died trying to find that safe. I won't let you share her fate. The study door burst open. Imogen stood there, her crimson dress like a splash of blood against the dark paneling. How touching, she sneered. Thatcher playing the white knight again. Tell her the rest, Thatcher. Tell her how you manipulated everything from the beginning. Evelyn looked between them. What is she talking about? Nothing. She's drunk, Thatcher said dismissively. Am I? Imogen advanced into the room. Tell her how you've known who she was for years. How you engineered her application for the nanny position. How you've been searching for the 3rd locket, not for justice, but for control of Montgomery Pharmaceuticals. That's enough, Imogen. No, it's not. Imogen turned to Evelyn. He's using you, just like he used Seraphina. For money. For power. He doesn't care about justice. Only about winning. Evelyn stood, backing away from both of them. Is this true? Thatcher's face hardened. Not in the way she suggests. But you knew? You arranged for me to apply here? Everything, Alara's response, my room, all of it, was manipulation. I did what was necessary to protect you. To protect your investment, you mean. Disgust washed over her. I trusted you. Imogen laughed bitterly. So did Seraphina. Right up until the end. The room spun around Evelyn as the implications crashed over her. Every moment since her arrival, every coincidence, every connection with Alara, every cryptic comment, had been orchestrated. She wasn't a person to Thatcher. She was a means to an end. How long? She demanded, voice barely above a whisper. How long have you known who I am? Thatcher's jaw tightened. 3 years. After Seraphina found the adoption records. Before she died? Before you even met me? Yes. The single word shattered whatever tenuous trust had formed between them. Evelyn backed toward the door, suddenly desperate to escape the suffocating tension. Evelyn, please. Thatcher moved toward her. I needed to be certain. I needed proof before I could tell you everything. You let me believe I was hired for my qualifications. Her voice trembled with anger. You let me care for your daughter without telling me she might be my cousin. Would you have believed me? A stranger claiming you were heiress to billions? Part of a conspiracy spanning decades. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. I had to gain your trust first. By lying to me? By manipulating me? She laughed bitterly. Congratulations. You've proven you're a true Montgomery. Imogen watched their exchange with undisguised satisfaction. He's more like Everett than he admits. The ends always justify the means for Montgomery men. Shut up, Imogen. Thatcher's voice was dangerous. You've done enough damage. Have I? She moved closer to Evelyn. Ask him about Marina, the woman in the boathouse. Ask him who she really is. Evelyn's breath caught. Who is she? Thatcher's silence was damning. She's Vivian Blackwood. Imogen continued, triumphant. Your mother. Very much alive, despite what Everett believes. Thatcher's been hiding her for months, ever since Serafina found her. The room tilted. My mother is alive? And you kept this from me? She's been in a catatonic state since we found her, Thatcher finally said. Brain damage from the accident Everett arranged. She recognizes no one, remembers nothing. Only Alara can reach her somehow. Marina, Avalon whispered. That's why Alara goes to the boathouse. Serafina discovered her sister in a private care facility under a false name. Thatcher continued. We moved her here secretly after Serafina died. I needed to know if you were really her daughter before you used me to find the third locket. The pieces clicked into horrible place. That's all any of this has been about. The lockets are the key to destroying Everett. To justice for both our families. Not to finding my mother. Not to reuniting her with her daughter. That was never the priority, Imogen interjected. The Montgomery fortune was. Something cold settled in Avalon's chest. Without a word, she turned and walked out, ignoring Thatcher calling her name. She moved through the crowded ballroom, past curious glances and whispered comments, out into the cool night air. Her room was exactly as she'd left it, the elegant gown and jewels laid out like a costume for a part she'd been unwittingly playing. She changed quickly into jeans and a sweater, shoving essentials into a backpack. The silver locket remained around her neck, no longer a mysterious keepsake but a burden of heritage. As she prepared to leave, a small voice came from the doorway. Are you going away? Alara stood there in her nightgown, eyes wide with understanding beyond her years. Avalon knelt to her level. I need to go away for a little while, sweetheart. Because of the secrets? Yes. Alara took her hand. I know about Marina. She's like you, but sleeping inside. Daddy said we couldn't tell anyone she's your mommy. Tears burned Avalon's eyes. Did you know who I was all along? The girl nodded solemnly. Daddy showed me your picture before you came. Said you were family, but didn't know it yet. Her small face crumpled. Please don't go. The bad man will find you. I need to think, Alara. About everything. Then go to the special place. Alara pressed something into Avalon's palm, a small key. Mommy's special place in the mountains. She took me there once. The cabin has the answers, she said. What answers? About the treasure. About the truth. The girl's voice dropped to a whisper. There's a map in my teddy bear. Mommy put it there before she went to the water. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Thatcher, searching for her. Avalon hugged Alara tightly. I'll come back for you. I promise. Pinky swear. The girl extended her little finger. Pinky swear. Avalon linked fingers with her, then slipped out the side door as Thatcher's voice called Alara's name. She reached her old Honda Civic undetected and sped through the gates, watching the Montgomery mansion recede in her rearview mirror. The teddy bear sat beside her on the passenger seat, its belly carefully sliced open to reveal a waterproof pouch containing a hand-drawn map to a cabin in the Adirondacks. 2 hours into her journey, as the highway gave way to mountain roads, snow began to fall. Her phone vibrated with messages from Thatcher, pleas, warnings, threats. She turned it off. The storm intensified as she climbed higher into the mountains, visibility deteriorating with each passing mile. By the time she located the unmarked road to the cabin, her windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the blinding snow. The cabin appeared suddenly in her headlights, a small, weathered structure nestled among towering pines. Serafina's sanctuary, according to the map's notations. A place untouched by Montgomery hands. Exhausted and half-frozen, Avalon unlocked the door with Alara's key. The interior was simple but comfortable. A large main room with a stone fireplace, a small kitchen, a bedroom visible through a doorway. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust, undisturbed for months. She lit the fire with trembling hands, then explored by its flickering light. On the mantelpiece stood a photograph, 3 identical infant girls, each wearing a silver locket around her tiny neck. Behind it, an inscription, My daughters, Serafina, Vivian, Valentine. May they one day be reunited. Valentine. The third triplet wasn't a boy after all, but another identical sister. Another piece of the puzzle Everett had buried. As the storm howled outside, Avalon collapsed into an armchair, overwhelmed by revelations and betrayals. She clutched her locket, wondering which sister had originally owned it, wondering if her entire life had been built on lies. She didn't hear the approaching vehicle until headlights swept across the windows. Fear gripped her. Had Everett found her? Had Thatcher? She doused the fire and retreated to the darkened bedroom, heart pounding as footsteps crunched through the snow toward the cabin door. The lock rattled. The door swung open. A tall figure entered, snow swirling around him. Evelyn. Thatcher's voice, raw with desperation. I know you're here. Please. She remained silent, weighing her options. Everett's men are right behind me. We have minutes, at most. The urgency in his voice seemed genuine. I've come to warn you, not to take you back. Still, she hesitated. I found Marina's doctor drugged in the boathouse. Everett knows she's alive. He'll be coming for you both. His voice broke. I've made mistakes, unforgivable ones. But I swear I never meant to put you in danger. A gunshot cracked through the night. Thatcher cursed, ducking inside and locking the door. Too late. Evelyn emerged from the darkness, adrenaline overriding her anger. How many? Thatcher spun toward her voice, relief flashing across his face. At least 3. Everett's private security detail. He moved to the window, peering through the curtains. They're surrounding the cabin. Another shot rang out, shattering the window beside him. Thatcher ducked as glass exploded inward. Get down. They crawled to the kitchen, taking cover behind the island counter. Outside, flashlight beams cut through the snowstorm, converging on the cabin. Why did you come? Evelyn demanded, heart hammering. Alara told me where you'd gone. Said she gave you the key. His breath came in white clouds as the cabin's temperature plummeted. I couldn't let you face this alone. Like you couldn't let me face the truth about my identity alone. The bitterness in her voice was palpable. You manipulated me from the beginning. Yes. The admission hung between them, but not for the reasons Imogen claimed. A voice called from outside. Montgomery, we know you're in there. Send out the girl, and we'll let you walk away. Thatcher's jaw tightened. Like hell. He pulled a handgun from inside his coat. Evelyn stared at it, then at him. You came prepared. I've been prepared since Serafina died. He checked the ammunition. 6 rounds. Not enough. For what? Shooting your way out. That's suicide. You have a better plan? His eyes never left the windows. The photograph on the mantelpiece caught her attention. Maybe. Help me move this. She pointed to the heavy wooden cabinet against the wall. Together they pushed it aside, revealing a small door built into the paneling. Evelyn inserted Alara's key into the lock. It turned with difficulty, hinges protesting as the door creaked open. A tunnel. Thatcher stared in disbelief. Serafina's escape route. She marked it on the map. Evelyn grabbed a flashlight from a drawer. It leads to a boathouse on the other side of the ridge. The tunnel was low and narrow, forcing them to hunch as they moved through the darkness. The temperature dropped further as they descended beneath the mountain. Behind them, the sounds of breaking glass and splintering would indicate Everett's men had breached the cabin. We don't have much time, Thatcher urged, his breath forming clouds in the beam of the flashlight. Why did Everett want my mother dead? Evelyn asked as they navigated the cramped passage. What could possibly justify trying to kill your own niece? Gregory Blackwood's will. The real one, not the forgery Everett used to seize control. Thatcher's voice echoed softly. It stipulated that control of Blackwood Biotech would transfer to his daughters upon his death, with Everett as guardian until they turned 25. But if all 3 daughters died without heirs, everything went to Everett. So he staged Vivian's accident and made sure Valentine disappeared entirely. Only Serafina remained, under his watchful eye. But then she married me instead of the man Everett had chosen, removing her from his direct control. They reached a junction in the tunnel. Evelyn consulted the map by flashlight. This way. We're almost there. Serafina found Valentine's adoption records first. Thatcher continued as they turned right. The 3rd sister, given away at birth. No trace after age 16, like she'd vanished. Then Serafina found Vivian in that care facility, brain damaged but alive. That's when Everett became dangerous. Because with both sisters alive, his claim was void. Precisely. And if their children could be found. A rumble interrupted them, distant at first, then growing in intensity until the tunnel shook around them. Dust and small rocks showered down. They're collapsing the tunnel. Thatcher grabbed her hand. Run. They sprinted through the darkness, the flashlight beam bouncing wildly as the rumbling intensified. Ahead, Avalon spotted a wooden door, the exit. As they reached it, the ceiling behind them gave way in a cascade of rock and dirt. The door was frozen shut. Thatcher rammed his shoulder against it repeatedly until it burst open, spilling them onto the snow-covered shore of a small lake. A dilapidated boathouse stood nearby, half collapsed under the weight of snow. They had seconds before Everett's men realized the tunnel had another exit. Thatcher pulled Avalon toward the trees, but she hesitated. Wait. She turned back toward the boathouse. There's something here. Something important. Avalon, there's no time. But she was already moving, drawn by an instinct she couldn't explain. Inside the crumbling structure, a small motorboat listed to one side, partially submerged in ice. Beside it, a metal lockbox was chained to a support beam. The beam was rotting. One strong pull freed the box. Avalon examined it under the flashlight's beam. A small keyhole shaped exactly like her locket. Is that the safe deposit box? It wasn't in a bank at all. Her fingers trembled as she removed her locket. Serafina hid it here. Shouts in the distance spurred her to action. She inserted the locket into the keyhole and turned. Nothing happened. It needs all three, Thatcher realized. He pulled Serafina's locket from his pocket. Together, the two lockets fit side by side, but still nothing happened. We need the third. Flashlights appeared at the tree line. There they are. We have to go. Thatcher grabbed the box. Now, they fled into the forest, snow hampering their progress as bullets splintered tree trunks around them. The mountainside offered no clear escape route, only deepening snow and increasingly treacherous terrain. There, Thatcher pointed to a rocky outcropping. We can make a stand there. They scrambled up the slippery rocks as more shots rang out. Reaching the relative shelter of the outcrop, they pressed against the stone, gasping for breath in the thin mountain air. Now what? Avalon clutched the metal box to her chest. Now we wait for a miracle. Thatcher checked his gun again. Or we die trying to protect that box. That's your plan? Die heroically. She laughed hysterically. All this, finding me, hiring me, everything, just to end like this? Anger flashed in his eyes. What do you want me to say, Avalon? That I'm sorry? I am. That I lied? I did. That I used you? Yes, at first. His voice grew heated despite the biting cold. But something happened that I didn't anticipate. What? Guilt. Love. The word hung between them in the freezing air. Not for who I thought you were. For you. For the woman who brought my daughter back to life. Who faced every mystery and threat with more courage than I've shown in years. The confession stunned her into silence. I didn't just find Alara's nanny, he continued, his voice breaking. I found the woman I never thought I'd meet again after Serafina died. Someone who made me feel alive. Avalon's anger wavered. You should have told me the truth from the beginning. I know. Snow gathered on his shoulders as he peered down at their pursuers. For what it's worth, I'm sorry I didn't trust you with the truth. That's my greatest regret. More shouts echoed below. Everett's men had found their trail in the snow. Thatcher handed her his gun. Take this. Head further up the ridge. There's a ranger station 2 miles north. I'll hold them here. That's suicide. It's your only chance. No. She pressed the gun back into his hands. We go together. I didn't come this far to lose more family. A bullet ricocheted off the rock beside them, showering them with stone fragments. Thatcher pulled Avalon down as more shots followed. We're out of options. The crack that followed wasn't a gunshot, but something far more ominous. The sound of fracturing ice. The ledge beneath them shifted. Avalon. Thatcher's eyes widened in horror. Don't move. Too late. She realized they were not on solid ground, but on a snow-covered ice shelf. As Everett's men continued firing, the vibrations triggered what they'd feared most, an avalanche. The world dissolved into chaos as ice and snow broke free. Avalon felt Thatcher's arms close around her, shielding her body with his own as they were swept away in the thundering white tide. Her last conscious thought was of the metal box still clutched against her chest, the key to everything, if they survived to use it. Consciousness returned to Avalon in fragments. The antiseptic smell of a hospital room, the rhythmic beeping of monitors, the dull ache permeating her body. She opened her eyes to find Thatcher asleep in a chair beside her bed, his face bruised, one arm in a cast. He hasn't left your side, came a familiar voice. Mrs. Hodges stood in the doorway, Alara's small hand clasped in hers. The girl broke free and ran to Avalon's bedside. "You kept your promise," Alara whispered, her eyes shining with tears. "You came back." Thatcher stirred at the sound, relief washing over his face when he saw Avalon awake. "Thank God." "The avalanche." Avalon's voice was hoarse. "Buried Everett's men. Search and rescue found us by helicopter." He nodded toward a metal box on the nightstand. "That survived too. How long have I been here?" 3 days. Thatcher reached for her hand, hesitated, then withdrew. "Everett's dead. Heart attack when he heard about the avalanche." Apparently, evil hearts have limits after all. Mrs. Hodges ushered Alara out, murmuring about letting Avalon rest. When they were alone, Thatcher leaned forward, his expression grave. "While you were unconscious, I made a decision." He pushed a stack of papers toward her. "Everything I know about your mother, your heritage, the Blackwood fortune, it's all there. Once you're recovered, you can pursue it or walk away. Your choice. And you?" "I'll be stepping down as CEO of Montgomery Pharmaceuticals." His smile was bitter. "Turns out fighting avalanches puts things in perspective." "What about Alara?" "She stays with me, of course." He looked confused. "Unless you think." "I think she needs her family. All of her family." Avalon gestured toward the metal box. "Did you open it?" "It's waiting for you." When Avalon was discharged a week later, she insisted on visiting the boathouse at the Montgomery estate before doing anything else. Thatcher accompanied her reluctantly. "She's been moved to a secure facility," he explained as they approached the weathered structure. "After Everett's men drugged her doctor, I couldn't risk keeping her here. I need to see where she was, to understand." Inside, the boathouse was surprisingly comfortable. A single room with a bed, bookshelves, medical equipment now disconnected. Photographs lined the walls, documenting a life interrupted. Vivian Blackwood as a child, as a young woman, with her sisters. "She lived here for months without my knowledge." Avalon touched a hairbrush on the nightstand. "Serafina kept her hidden from everyone, even me at first. She was afraid Everett would finish what he started if he knew Vivian survived. And now Everett's gone. His conspirators are being investigated. It's time for truths to emerge." In Thatcher's study, they finally opened the metal box. Inside lay 3 envelopes and a sealed document. The first envelope contained a letter in elegant handwriting. "To my daughters," Avalon read aloud. "If you're reading this, my worst fears have been realized. Everett has shown his true nature. The man I trusted as my partner and my daughter's guardian has betrayed us all." The letter detailed Gregory Blackwood's suspicions about Everett's growing hunger for control of the company, his decision to protect his daughters by separating them after his terminal diagnosis. "I thought I could trust Everett to honor our partnership," she continued reading. "But I discovered evidence of tampering in our research data, harmful modifications to formulas that could kill rather than cure. When I confronted him, I saw in his eyes that I would not live to see another dawn." Thatcher sat heavily in a nearby chair. Serafina suspected, but to have confirmation. The second envelope contained DNA test results confirming what they already knew. Avalon was indeed Vivian's daughter. The third held keys and account numbers to trust funds established for each sister's lineage. The sealed document was Gregory Blackwood's true will, witnessed and notarized, leaving control of Blackwood Biotech to his daughters jointly, with specific provisions for their descendants if harm befell any of them. "With this, you could reclaim everything," Thatcher said quietly. "The company, the patents, the Blackwood legacy. Is that what you want?" "What I want stopped mattering the moment I put you in danger." He met her eyes directly. "What do you want, Avalon?" 2 months later, the headlines announced the revival of Blackwood Biotech, separated from Montgomery Pharmaceuticals through an unprecedented legal settlement. Thatcher Montgomery retained his position as CEO under the new corporate structure, answering to a board headed by Avalon Blackwood. At the rehabilitative care center where Vivian Blackwood now resided, Avalon visited daily. Progress was slow, a finger twitch, an eye-tracking movement, the faintest hint of recognition. "The doctors say familiar things might help," she told Thatcher as they sat beside Vivian's bed. "Scents, sounds, memories." Alara climbed onto the bed, gentle with the tubes and wires. "I brought your favorite book, Marina." She opened the dog-eared collection of Greek myths, reading haltingly about Persephone's return from the underworld. Avalon and Thatcher exchanged glances as Vivian's fingers twitched against the blanket. It wasn't much, but it was something, a beginning. Later, in the garden of what was now their home, neither the imposing Montgomery mansion nor Seraphina's mountain cabin, but a new place without ghosts. Avalon found Thatcher staring at the sunset. "I've been offered my old teaching position," she said, joining him. "Part-time, so I can continue with Blackwood and spend time with Vivian. You should take it. You're a natural with children. I've had good practice." She smiled as Alara raced across the lawn, chasing fireflies. "She's thriving. Because of you." Thatcher's hand found hers, tentative still despite everything they'd been through. "We all are." "We saved each other," she corrected him. "That's what family does." In her pocket, she carried the silver locket that had started everything, now joined by a simple gold band. Not yet worn, not yet accepted, but a promise of possibilities. Valentine's daughter called again, Thatcher said, breaking the comfortable silence. "She's eager to meet you." Another cousin for Alara. Another piece of the puzzle. Avalon leaned against his shoulder. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't found my application that day? I don't believe in coincidences anymore." He turned to face her fully. "Some things are meant to be, however tangled the path." In the warm evening light, Avalon recognized the truth in his words. She had come to the Montgomery estate as a nanny, an orphan seeking employment. She was leaving as a Blackwood, with a family, a heritage, and a future she could never have imagined. And perhaps, when the wounds of deception had fully healed, with something else too, a love forged in danger and truth, stronger for having survived both. Alara ran to them, breathless with excitement. "I caught one." In her cupped hands, a firefly pulsed with gentle light. "Make a wish before it flies away." Avalon and Thatcher exchanged glances over the child's head, no words needed. Their wishes were already coming true, one day at a time, as they built new roots together.